from a language learning perspective, I just want to kind of talk about noticing really quick. Noticing is this idea that if you don't notice something, it's really hard to learn it because you don't
Yeah.
even know it's there. You're like you have no idea it's even there. So like for instance, if I'm an English teacher, if I'm teaching a student to like say the sentence like the dog chased the ball, and if I have a beginner level student, I say, hey, what did I just say? They might be able to tell me like, oh, dog, ball. But something they're missing, they might miss all the thes, like the dog chased the ball. They don't even hear it. They don't even know it's there. But if instead I give them a sentence and I tell them it and like I put in blanks, like if I write blank dog chased blank ball, now suddenly when I say the sentence, they're listening. But oh, what's there? Something's there. I don't know what.
Yeah.
So just that aspect is noticing. I think one of the things that we do at the verses is we haven't, I don't think, stated it this way, but I think we're about that idea of system and change and trying to have poetry take on like new frontiers and new approaches with people. But again, I think it starts with the concept of noticing. So
Yeah. I think one of the things that is really important, like even when it comes to like kind of noticing things that you that you maybe are like either missing in routine or like missing just because it's routine, is also being able to acknowledge things and systems that like you're kind of almost taking for granted.
yeah,
I'm not gonna make this like religious, but there was actually something like really interesting
that God said.
that God actually told me yesterday about you guys. But no, it was funny. It was, it kind of ran into it randomly on Facebook, as a matter of fact. But like there is this, there was like they were at this church, and this pastor brought somebody up on stage, and the guy that he brought up was this really big bodybuilder guy that was a member of the church. And he's this really big bodybuilder guy, and he was just like, "Would you know?" And the pastor's and like I think his name was like Ronald or something like that. He was just like, me and Ron, we go to the same gym, and and everybody laughed because like the pastor was not a super fit guy whatsoever, but like this guy, he really was. And he was just like the differences, and we've been going to the same gym for a relatively the same amount of time, but the differences in our results are from our mindset. Because he's like, when I go to the gym, like I go to the gym, and so later on, when you have like the cookie or something like that, he's like, I can have a cookie, I can do this, I can do that. But he was just like, when Ron goes to the gym, he says, I went to the gym today. That's the reason why I don't want to ruin the results that I have by doing this, by doing that. And these are things that I'm like, if you are like, just when it comes to like creating systems or having systems that make sense for you and for your goals, being able to be like, okay, well, because I'm working hard at this goal, I'm working forward motion towards this goal. It's the reason why I can't have these things that are impediments to my goal. So, yeah.
So I think, and just to maybe give some even more examples of systems, just to make sure we're really all on the same page. The example that Seth gave that I was telling the class about earlier is like, for instance, if you think of weddings, I mean, there's all the things like so many things fall into systems, but one system in a wedding is if you think about bridesmaids and how, if you've never been to a wedding before, you know nothing about weddings, and then you suddenly go to a wedding and you're like, why are all these women wearing, similar style dresses next to the bride? Once you're aware of that system, then when like you have your own wedding, the bride can talk to the bridesmaids and be like, oh, we're not doing it this year. You know what I mean? So like we can break the system too. Be like, oh, I want you all to wear the same color, but you can choose whatever you want, or like things like that.
Yeah.
But it still is operating under the paradigm of the system,
Yeah.
but you adjust it. I've noticed with poetry that I think the verses is purposely trying to subvert is funding. Like funding, I think in the arts in poetry is predominantly the systems in place generally fall under philanthropy, nonprofit grants, and fellowships and residencies. There's this idea of application, like you have to apply for something and then get accepted under review process. That is a system.
Yeah, and I think it's a system because it's a system of I think kind of like activity that puts you into other systems, right? So it's like it's you as an artist feeling like the natural progression for me as an artist is to start just applying for other things. But I also think it's a system to not do things for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like I mean, and I know that you had like another point on top of that, but I think like one of the other systems that like I see that you see a lot is like kind of like a pulling back of like, hey, why don't you just kind of create a brand and like market yourself as a poet, as opposed to like pushing yourself into these organizations or like or grants or anything like that.
Right.
Which is, I want to be clear. So it's not even that you can't do those things, but it's that, well, like people have their own kind of way, but it's like as well as also again, people aren't willing to be just put themselves out there and say like, my work is good, my work has an audience, I'm going to reach my audience myself. And we talk about it a lot when it comes to like when you see somebody at like an open mic or like and they're talking about like, hey, I submitted 1,000 times here or 1,000 times here, but I'm like, okay, that's great. Have you ever had headshots before? Oh, never? Okay, fair enough. Have you ever looked into like what publishing your work might look like? No. Do you have like a web? No, I don't want to get into that.
But I mean,
but yeah, it's just to say like there's like so many things that are like very simple things that if you just started doing them for yourselves, then like other things might happen for you, but also like you can make things happen for yourself, and it's kind of like again a system in that you are not doing those things for yourself.
it's interesting you bring up headshot. I mean, there's a system to headshots, right?
Yeah.
What's the poet headshot system?